Okay, so I'm CCP Falcon.
I'm CCP Eterne.
And we're here to talk to you today about player fiction in New Eden. So first, full introductions.
Yeah, I'm CCP Eterne. I joined EVE in February 2006. 6 months later, I joined ISD Aurora because I saw that there were volunteers for doing events, and I loved that. So I joined up and got accepted. When Aurora closed, I was one of the charter members of the EVE Mercury team, and I was hired as a community representative on October of last year, and I'm currently drafting my first chronicle that's going to be published, I think, in May.
And I'm CCP Falcon, and I'm old. I joined EVE in May 2003. Originally, I was with ISD CRC, the old forum moderation team. I then joined ISD Mercury in the fall of 2011, and I was hired at the same time as a community representative along with CCP Eterne. And I'm actually publishing my first CCP chronicle regarding Caldari Prime, hopefully next week when it's finished.
Right. Although it was scheduled 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was scheduled 2 weeks ago, but it didn't go out.
It's so long.
So, the first thing we want to talk about is exploring New Eden and its backstory.
Was this me?
It has a huge backstory.
Yes. EVE has a huge backstory. I'm sure you've all been to the Chronicles section of the website. You've read Chronicles. That's where I first got into the backstory of New Eden. I went to the website. You can see the layout. You see all the beautiful pictures that our great art team has done. And you can just spend hours at a time diving into that and exploring the backstory of New Eden.
I've lost days of my life in there, to be fair. But yeah, so as well as that, we have a very unique setting. The game has 20,000 years of history. And it's a very unique sci-fi setting as well. It's very dystopian. It's got a very dark theme. And it kind of has very gray morality as well.
Right. One of the big themes of EVE is that no one's really the good guy. There are bad guys. There are pirates that generally are pretty evil. But no one's really good. You don't have a single one nation or group of people that are unequivocally good and do things out of the greatness of their hearts, and every great flowery thing spawns from them.
And as well as that, we're kind of with the second decade enter a new age for EVE Online, and of course for New Eden. We've got Just 514 joining us very soon. I'll be going live. So we've also got the backstory that's going to come around for Immortal Mercenaries as well. So that opens up a lot of new windows for us to start writing as developers and as players as well, to explore that facet of the setting. So now we can look at a player fiction retrospective. We're going to try and keep this presentation pretty short because we want to mainly have like a forum for you guys to talk to us, and mainly so that we can speak to each other. So we've had a decade of awesomeness. We've had some of the most awesome fiction I've seen in an online game published by you guys, and it's hosted pretty much everywhere.
We have a decade of memories, just great stories that come from the players of EVE Online, just not even fiction that they've created, but things they've done in-game, experiences they've had and shared with us.
Yeah, thousands of stories. Every action you guys perform in-game can potentially have, well, it has a narrative behind it. It has substance, it has meaning, and if you guys want to write about it, it's awesome. Every step you take through EVE, you create your own narrative. So it should definitely be documented.
And one of the great ways we had for a long time was Eon Magazine. Unfortunately, it's closed down. But for the time it was in publication, we had almost each issue had 2, sometimes 3 chronicles in it. It had player stories that weren't chronicles. It was amazing stuff. I was lucky enough to get several of mine published in it and to have worked as like a screener for stories for about a year and got to read some amazing submissions. Great stories that added to the lore and just the depth of New Eden.
And as well as that, there's a lot of long-term narratives that you guys have produced. I mean, we've got, we had, in the early days, we had the Hamish saga, we had the Chorus of Angel saga, both by Isvan Shigatsu. I know we have Muriel Arcanath in the room as well, who ran Diary of a Pod Pilot.
We have Sakan A&L, who does her diary of an Ataki. Yeah, Solitary Violet. I knew I would eventually have gotten the name.
Yeah, and there are so
And
many.
there are so many more that we can easily spend hours just listing the great
Yeah, I mean,
stories that people have
we could list
written.
literally hundreds of websites. I mean, they're everywhere. So we want to give you an introduction to play fiction, but you obviously probably already know about it. So there are 7 main places that you will find it, and we're going to touch on each of these in the next few slides. So the e-fiction forum.
The e-fiction forum is probably the most visible place just because it's on our official forums. Like everyone who scrolls down can see it's there. It's a good place to start just because it has the highest density of like players visiting it. It's official. We sometimes run official fiction contests. Players run a lot of fiction contests and give out great prizes. And it has a developer presence. Every so often you'll see CCP Abraxas or CCP Naughton jump in and answer some questions, clarify some of the mystery of New Eden, or just offer their own perspective on certain facets of the lore.
We also have the Intergalactic Summit, which I'm sure a few of you will be aware of. So yes, we like to emphasize that roleplay is fiction too, and and you get a lot of interest and interaction. It's great for in-character posting, it's great for networking. It's good just to get a feeling, get a handle on who is doing what, which corporations are aligned with which factions, who you can team up with, who you can count on to be shooting with, and who you can count on to be shooting at. It also has the advantage that it's CCP moderated as well, which means that things don't get too out of hand. Usually, sometimes, a bit. Okay.
Right, we have Eve blogs. We've mentioned a few of them earlier. They're great for longer stories. You can post one snippet at a time, a chapter, just a couple of paragraphs. You can, if you continue it for a while, we have an awesome fan site program where you can apply to it and get listed on the official Eve website in our fan site program. It's customizable, so you can fit it to whatever sort of narrative you want. If you want to use pictures, if you want to use video, it's a lot easier to do that than on one of our official forums. And you can get wider exposure. You can spread it around on Twitter, Facebook, share with other members of the Eve blog pack, for instance, and get just a dedicated reader base that will come back and constantly consume your stories.
So there are also, alongside blogs, there are player websites. There are a number of role-player forums out there. There are corporations, RP corporations and alliances who host their own websites. They publish their own fiction there. Some of the older corporations like Corelli Corp, Omerta Syndicate, both used to do the same. Pi as well, yeah. Aegis Militia. There's a lot of corporations out there who basically have their own portals for their own theme of roleplay. They're also, third-party sites are also very good for workshopping. They're good to go there, to get into discourse with people, to start speaking to people, to share ideas, you know, kind of pan out your own fiction and get feedback on it. There's lots of player involvement, a hell of a lot of player involvement. These things are hosted by you guys for you guys, so they're fantastic for just like getting your work proofread by a few people before you put it out.
And as a writer, like the greatest thing you can get is someone to read over your stuff and tell you what's good and what's bad about it. Like, I think being able to handle criticism is the greatest strength of any writer, so if any of you are nervous about posting stuff publicly, don't be. Like everyone, even the greatest writers get their work torn apart, so don't be afraid to get your own, and it'll only improve you.
So, there's also in-game, and yes, I'm sorry, that is a screenshot of the summit.
Well, that's pretty, sexual preference is pretty standard for the summit.
Yeah, that's pretty tame for the summit, to be fair. So, in-game, your actions have consequence, they have meaning, and we want you guys to create a narrative around that. We want you guys to write. We want you guys to share your stories. We've got places where you can share your stories, and we want to hear them, to be fair. Roleplay also provides inspiration. You might get into something in-game, you might get into something as simple as a bar fight in a roleplay channel with someone, and it can spawn a whole arc of fiction around it. Interaction also drives development as well. You develop your character, the people you interact with help to shape your character as you move forward. And there's umpteen places in Eve that you can do this. There are literally hundreds of roleplay channels where you can get involved with people, you can interact, and you can just develop your character and your own personal backstory and create a narrative from it. So,
Yeah, not all player fiction is written.
yeah.
There are a lot of different videos, awesome songs, movies, podcasts that players have done that help drive forth fiction. Like Clear Skies, we've had like the Day of Darkness videos, which encapsulate a great part of our fiction and backstory, and they're very creative. And we don't want people to just get stuck in this idea that the only player fiction made is stuff that they write down, and it's not all narrative. And videos are sort of, there are a few of them that have been done, but I think they're a great like untapped medium. So if you're creative and you don't really have confidence like describing like a room or something like that, but you can put together some awesome machinima, I urge you to go do it because it's great.
Yeah, so these 4 screenshots, the first one we showed, the dark blue one, that was
I think
Day of
it's actually
Darkness.
5.
4 or 5, yeah. I can count. So, yeah, the first one is Day of Darkness. The second one, top right, is actually a shot from Corelli Corporation's recruitment video, which, in my mind, still stands as one of the best recruitment videos I've ever seen for Eve. Then below that is Future Proof, which was like over an hour-long machinima that was put together in the Unreal Engine, I believe it was. So we've got a lot of very creative people in the community, and you do not just restrict that to being able to write. If you want to express a narrative through different means, then the door is always open, and we always love to see that.
And then there's the Evelopedia. I'm a bit of a specialist on it. We use it for our official fiction portal, but it's also a great place for players to stick up their character profiles, their own stories. You can link it to other articles on the fiction portal that connect with your character or have information on things your character has done. It has a uniform layout, so it's all very nice looking. And it's CCP hosted, so everyone can easily find it.
Yeah, and I mean, there are third-party wikis as well, but you know, these cost money to set up. Some people don't have that facility available to them, so we just want to make sure that you guys have a place as not as a last resort, but as somewhere that you can host everything, and you can easily link to Prime Fiction stuff to describe what you're writing about. So, influences of player fiction over the years.
Right. There's actually been quite a lot that players have written that has either seeped into the public lore of the game or influenced our development of storyline.
Absolutely. I mean, creation is huge. I know the Caldari Napani had an entire lexicon created, and some people like it, some people hate it, some people venomously hate it, but it's there, and it was all player created, and it's stuff that's used widely by the player base now. We've also, I can see a few members in the room, we've also had a very heavy influence of ISD Mercury over the years. These guys are absolutely awesome, and they're invaluable to us. I mean, we could not pull off half of the stuff that we do without them.
Right. They do a great job of fleshing out our lore. All of the fiction portal articles are all written by ISD Mercury, and they've put out some amazing stuff just to fill in the gaps that we don't have the manpower to actually fill in.
Yeah, the vast majority of stuff that you will see on the fiction portal is either at least partially or sometimes wholly written by ISD Mercury, and there's a lot of articles in there that were created and designed by them from scratch. They've done a hell of a lot of work over the years. And credit where credit is due. I don't think we could maintain the Evelopedia in the amount of content we have in it without them. As well as that, the influence of player fiction has also spawned live event arcs. We've seen that over the last 6 months that you guys have managed to screw up our plans quite horribly. And, you know, we've kind of got to adapt and we've got to run with it. And yeah, I mean, we had an entire an arc that ran over Christmas about one guy who was in the room right now, God damn it, who just happened to make a forum post that we thought was great, and it spawned an entire live event arc over Christmas. So yeah, you guys, with the right kind of interaction, can definitely have an effect, and we want to promote that as much as possible.
There's some tips to get involved. Be prolific. Just put stuff out there. Write a lot. one of the best things to do to get writing is to write. You will get into this groove and you just won't stop. Share your ideas with other people.
Yeah.
Get feedback from them. And as I said earlier, the greatest strength a writer can have is the ability to take criticism and to listen to what others have to say about their work and take that to heart.
Yeah, and you should also read more. I know it sounds kind of the polar opposite, but reading more, it lets you analyze other writer styles. It lets you get a gauge for what they're doing, how they're presenting themselves, how they're presenting their descriptive works, you know, how they're putting dialogue in. It's very easy to just like start writing and then be like, how do I do this? So definitely read more. It'll help you develop your style. Even start a blog or a journal. Just an in-character blog, an in-character daily post from yourself. It doesn't have to be huge. Just something where you can start and you can get into a groove. You can start developing character. And eventually, you'll just find that it starts to come naturally. Practice always helps.
And join ISD Mercury if you really, really want to make an impact on the lore. Like, they are always starved for manpower. And if you're passionate about any of the factions, if you love the Caldari, if you love the Intaki, if you love the Blood Raiders, and you think, well, there's questions that aren't answered, apply to ISD Mercury, and they'll definitely take a good hard look at you. And if you get in, you'll be able to have an amazing impact and influence.
Absolutely. I mean, both myself and CCB Eterne are former ISD Mercury members, and it's unbelievable the amount of work that the team puts in. And if you want to be part of something awesome and you want to help to shape Eve's backstory, then that's definitely a good start.
Right.
And Abraxas will probably kill me, but everyone apply. Everyone.
Yeah.
All of you. All
Galen,
at once
it'll
at
be
the
Galen,
same time.
the leader. And just as a small, what Mercury doesn't only do Fiction Portal articles, they've also written a good portion of the news articles that have gone out. They were going out in the factional feeds, and when those went bye-bye with the community site update, those are the ones that I've been putting on the IGS and the temporary newsfeed thread. So, and you can obviously see they do good work.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to be involved, if you want to shape Eve's backstory, ISD Mercury is definitely the place to be. And the last one.
Submit to True Stories in Eve. We have a huge website, and player fiction isn't only making stuff up. It's not only making narratives about characters that aren't you, or even making up narratives about your own character. If something happened and you can weave that event into a narrative, that's amazing, and that's what we love. We love all the great stuff players do in Eve. So submit to the True Stories site.
Yeah, I mean, we've had so many things over the years that have happened. You know, we've had the Guiding Hand Social Club highs, the death of the first Titan, the construction of the first Titan. We've had, you know, when the establishment lost the first mothership that was used in PvP. We've had so many awesome stories, and it's all been created by you guys. So we highly recommend that you submit to this the new site that we have set up. You can actually, it links through from the new eve.com domain that the timeline is on, and you can submit all of your true stories from within Eve to it, and hopefully we'll see some of them bridge out into the media in the future. And the future of player fiction now.
More competitions. We helped a player run a competition early or late last year. It wrapped up right after Christmas. We gave them some awesome prizes. We got over 100 entries, which, like, we didn't expect anywhere near that much. And it's definitely something we're looking at doing more of in the future. Awesome competitions to, like, just get player fiction and highlight it and give you guys great stuff for, like, writing or producing it.
Yeah, I mean, I was astonished at the reaction that we had to that. I was expecting like maybe 30 or 40 entries.
Right.
Come out, it was something like, I think it was 109, that
Yeah,
number rings a
109.
bell. Yeah, and like some of them were like pages and pages and pages, and it actually took me right over Christmas to read them all. I was just like, whoa, there's so much. And yeah, it's unbelievable the response we had to that, just by assisting a player to put his own competition out. So I think in future we're going to try and embrace that, and hopefully we'll get something rolling, and we'll let you guys know about it.
And we already talked about recruitment for Mercury.
Let's talk about it more.
Yeah.
Oh.
Go apply. If
Go
you
apply.
like to write, if you like the Eve backstory, go apply.
Yeah, Mercury has a wonderful group of guys and girls in it who are always pumping out fiction for the Evelopedia. they're always understaffed. They do so much work, and if you want to be a part of it and you want to help us out, you're all more than welcome to apply.
And player fiction on the Evelopedia, we're looking into ways to highlight player fiction by either putting it on the Evelopedia or giving you guys a place to put it so that it can maintain some permanency, where even if your website goes down or you decide to leave Eve, it's going to stay there and remain influential so that other people can come along and see your effort.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's like the main disadvantage that we have with everyone having blogs, everyone having websites, that kind of thing, is it's very scattered. And there's no central point where you can look and you can find like an index or a list of everything and everything that everyone's written. So having it on the Evelopedia, yeah, we definitely want to look at that, or at least look at putting a big index there where you can go and you can see, oh, I want to read stuff about the Kaldari, I'll go here. I want to read stuff about the Amar, I'll go here. So yeah, we really want to see something set up for you guys so that you can do that. Oh, we have a question.
Oh.
I'm sure we can have people look into that and see.
Yeah,
if
we're
that's
not
possible.
lawyers, so
yeah.
we can't give you any like. It's
No, that's a very valid point, and it's something we'll look into definitely.
right.
And
Definitely.
I'm sure that would be a part of like us working out how we want to set things up, what is, what we're able to do, what is viable and what isn't. But yes, it's definitely something we can look at.
And Project Clockwork is your baby, so I'll
Yeah,
let you talk
and
about
this
that.
is something that I want to pitch to you guys and talk about. This is the final thing on the presentation before we go into questions. We had a couple of questions yesterday in the storyline panel, and I was kind of saving this for today, even though I wanted to talk about it yesterday. So when I was a player, I started something called Project Clockwork, and it was just something I did on my own, and I was starting to write. And it basically revolves around Eve's technical backstory. So cloning, how jump gates work, how a ship works, down to how a turret fires, whether that be a hybrid turret, whether that be a projectile turret, whether it be an energy turret. What I want to do is I want to collaborate with the player base, and I'm sure Eterne will also want to do so, and basically start workshopping with you guys, putting up threads on the e-fiction forums, getting your feedback, because hey, if you're in this room, you're a sci-fi geek, like the pair of us. This is why you come to Fanfest. So what we want to do is we want to put this project together so that maybe on a weekly basis, we can start a thread on the forums and say, okay, the topic for this week is how does a Stargate work? And then we just get a huge, massive pile of responses, hopefully. And then we can go away and we can write based on your suggestions, based on what isn't viable or sensible. And we can basically flesh out Eve's technical backstory with heavy player involvement. And that's something that hopefully we're going to kick off in the summer. And we'll run for as long as it takes, pretty much. I'm not promising that everything will get touched on, but we'll be talking to the storyline guys. We'll be looking at what's viable for us to say, hey guys, how do you think this works? How do you think that works? And we'll work from there, and hopefully you guys will have some awesome contributions to make, and it'll end up being part of Eve's technical backstory. So, question time, if any of you have any.
Falcon remembers a few weeks ago, during the height of the whole stress and stuff going on in Caldari Society, I sort of sent you an email with a suggestion for a news article
Mm-hmm.
a year ago. You basically had to turn it down.
Yeah.
I was wondering if there were any plans in place to maybe put a pipeline in place where players could submit news ideas for thinking and review.
So the issue that we have, and this is the same with ISDIC, is that we can't just like take a player-written news article and publish it. What we can do is we can take ideas from people, I'm sure. It's
Right.
something that we can't promise, obviously. But if you guys ever have any suggestions, then you're more than welcome to email us and speak to us about it.
Right. If you want to write news articles, that's what Mercury
Yeah,
does a lot.
join
of,
ISD
so
Mercury.
so.
Yes, Paul.
I'm glad you got the message.
Yeah. You.
There's been some, a little bit of player work on like review stuff.
So I think that's something that's more in the ballpark of storyline, and you might want to speak to CCP Nauten and CCP Abraxas about it. But I don't see why you couldn't apply that kind of methodology to creating the languages in game for our 4 races. I'm sure that things will be extremely varied, considering like the nations in Eve span hundreds of solar systems, whole regions. So yeah, it's something we could definitely look at. Yeah, and I will actually bring it up.
Take a lot of work, and you probably want to get a real linguist.
Absolutely, yeah. And there has been a little bit of work on that in the past, but unfortunately it wasn't published. It's still something that's very much a work in progress, and it's on the back burner for now. But yeah, it's definitely a good point and something we can look into.
Hi, you were saying about how times where a player has submitted something and you've gone, oh, that's really cool, and you've implemented it into, well, it's essentially the prime fiction. You were mentioning the event that kicked off over last Christmas, and that's one of the times where it's worked really, really well. And there have been times where it's not worked so well. There was a certain character that had a certain bit of storyline way back when, and
You're being
it was
very vague.
I don't want to name people's
okay,
names.
fair enough,
I mean,
fair
if you want me to, I can name it. I mean,
No, it's all
okay.
good. I actually know. I know
but
it's.
yeah. It was during the whole Sancha thing way back when.
Yeah.
What have you guys got in hindsight for vetting, where you realise this is someone to really work with and click with, and where you're thinking, do we really want to risk the drama llama with this person?
I don't think we really want to shut the door on anyone, and we don't want to say this is someone that we will work with and this is someone that we won't work with, because I don't think that's fair at all.
Right, we have to really take it on a case-by-case basis, and
Yeah.
we look at it and see, what does this add to our IP? What does this add to our story? And
Absolutely.
if it adds a great benefit to our story, we'll run with it. And like we obviously have to look at what the potential consequences will be, but
Definitely, yeah.
we tend to err on the side of this will be awesome rather than this
Yeah.
might cause a little bit of difficulty.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something absolutely outlandish and crazy, then obviously we're not going to run with it. But yeah, I mean, if people have suggestions, I mean, if people just start role-playing and it's awesome, then we're quite happy to have, our live event contacts and live events on a smaller scale kind of interweave with that. I mean, we saw that with the DED arc over Christmas. We saw that with the Ishikarata riot when all of the nasty provosts came in and shot people. There's all kinds of things we can do in that respect, and we both keep a very, very close eye on the IGS, even when it's really bad. And we make sure that we kind of keep our fingers on the pulse so that we know what's going on, what you guys are doing, and how we can assist. You good, sir?
You were talking about competitions, and I mean the Pod and Planet competition was brilliant. I was really chuffed for you that it was so many people. Just had an idea. Now I'm writing for Game Skinny as a blogger as well, and I've also done some audio work. Would you guys be interested in perhaps running a competition through them to where the prize would be we'd make an audio version of the fiction?
That'd be pretty cool. That's definitely something we could look
cool
at.
idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also something, though, that would have to go through the community manager and the rest of the community team.
Sure.
And we'd have to work out whether it was possible to do it, what the legality was, things like that.
Yeah.
Luckily, we're both on the community team, so we
Yeah.
can bring this up.
What a coincidence.
You're the people to ask.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah,
I mean, it'd be. I think that'd be quite fun to be able to have something that comes out of the competition afterwards.
Yeah,
to,
absolutely.
For that permanency that it isn't just written. I think it's something I'd like to. Maybe I can talk to you about it a bit later.
Cool.
With the Eon magazines closing down, will any of the fiction in there be published elsewhere?
I'm very interested in getting that happening, but there's some legal issues we have to really explore. It closed down sort of recently, and we were running up to Fanfest, and there was a lot of work on both of our plates, so we haven't been able to really explore it yet. But
Yeah.
it's something we're going to be looking at in the
It'll-
future.
I mean, it also happened fairly abruptly as well, so
Right.
we weren't really thinking about it up until the point it was like, whoa, Eon is gone, kind of thing. But yeah, there is some absolutely beautiful player fiction in Eon magazine. And I mean, I'll agree with Eterne here that we definitely don't want to see that just like be brushed under the carpet somewhere and never read again. We'd love to see it all be released. I mean, even if it comes out in PDF format and it's downloadable from the website and it's still Eon branded, something like that, who knows? But it's something that we both feel very passionate about and we really, really want to see happen. So, yes, absolutely. Oh, yeah, like the player guides and things like that. Okay, yeah. I mean... Yeah, I mean, that's something that we could look into as well, yeah.
You mentioned before other mediums such as audio and doing videos and such. Currently, the bar for entry as far as video seems kind of high. It involves trying to rip models out of things and whatever, unless some new resources come out that I'm not aware of. Is there any chance of CCP making some sort of general resource pack more available to players to do that sort of thing, or for like machinima, those sorts of things?
Yeah, I mean, right now most people will create videos by using try-export or pulling the models out and then posing them or whatever they need to do. But yeah, the bar can be pretty high, and we have some very creative people in the community, some people who are very technically versed in that kind of thing as well. So, I mean, again, that's something that the art department would have to answer, to be honest, because they create all the art assets, they package them, put them in the client, and in all honesty, I don't think either of us have the technical knowledge in the background there to be able to make a call on that. But it is an awesome idea, and it's something we can definitely explore. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk to people about it and see what we can do.
So they've reopened the store, from what I saw. I'd be interested in buying a hard copy book of the Chronicles.
You know
Yeah,
what?
that would be awesome.
I would absolutely love that. That would be the best thing ever. And it's all down to marketing and whether they want to publish one. But if there's a big enough demand, I mean, hands up, how many of you guys would buy that? There we go.
Okay. We'll tell them that we got,
Tell them that we've got like at least 50 sales.
right, yeah. Exactly.
Give us a graphic novel too.
Yeah, buy two.
There's this keynote you guys might want to attend, so.
Yes. Speaking of the keynote as well, we will probably cut this about 10 minutes short. We don't want to hold you guys here right up until the hour. We want you to get decent seats in the keynote. So we'll, I don't know what time we're on now.
Yeah, we got half past.
Half past. So we've got a good 20 minutes if any of you guys have any more questions.
We have somebody in the audience who last year wrote a very, very lovely write-up of Fanfest in character.
Yes.
And we obviously have little tidbits on the shirts and stuff coming up, that we can find and use.
Yeah.
Would it be possible for maybe just like a plan for next year to have more put out about Fanfest with an in-character spin, and then having, maybe a competition for people to do in-character write-ups about panels that they went to or the events surrounding Fanfest, like the ski trip or going to the Blue Lagoon or the pub crawl, which would probably make a pretty funny story in and of itself.
Much of it wouldn't be publishable, though. So.
To be fair, my story from last night would be pretty terrible. So.
But I mean, it's like providing us with more in-character analogs for what Fanfest is. Like, say, an example, like for what location might it be held in? Just like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be great. Like,
Yeah.
I like the in-character write-up of Fanfest.
I like the competition based around that as well. That's really cool.
that would be a great competition.
Yeah, they'd just be like Harper covered in blood and bodies and like
Well, I mean, they're out of the pod. They don't want to
someone
risk
flying
their
a
own
Nix
death.
into Reykjavik and
Yeah.
just get all messy.
Oh, Admiral Noir.
Yes, any further questions?
Nope. Well, we can just sit here and
Yeah.
we can
We can sit here and
chill out. So what are you guys doing? How you feeling?
But yeah, we've got another 20 minutes, so we can just sit and have a chat. And if you guys come up with any more questions, then by all means.
I was just this is
I've got one. I'm so
I was just
excited.
saying when someone mentioned the hard book copy of it, has there ever been thoughts to do an audio book or have readings of either the prime fiction or some of the best story pieces that have ever been done?
There's actually a couple of initiatives from players that
Guys,
have
I-
been doing great readings of them. There's one on SoundCloud. The guy's done one. He's working on a few others, and then he's going to start publicizing it. There's another one that we approved a couple of months ago. He's done 8. I think he has a... Yeah, he's raising his hand. He has a thread on the e-fiction forum that they're really awesome. He's got a great voice, so they're really enjoyable to listen to. And like doing it, as far as doing an official one, that's again kind of like it
We could get
requires.
CCP Norton to read it. He has,
Yes.
he has an epic voice.
Yeah, he does.
So that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds pretty good. Sounds like a good idea. You good, sir?
We're talking about doing audio versions of already published official chronicles or something different.
Yeah, like audio versions of officially published chronicles and...
Several years ago, I contacted legal about doing a visual version of a chronicle I really, really wanted to do. Kind of still do, because it'd be easy and look really good. They said no then, but if we're opening things up,
Send in a petition to the community team,
We'll
and
look
we
at it.
will. Yeah. Because
Absolutely.
there has been some
Like-
slight change in.
Yeah, I mean, the door, in the last few years, the door to creativity related to Eve has really opened up. I mean, I think we're opening up a lot in general, and we're a lot more receptive now to player ideas and to player involvement.
Actually, talking about readings of chronicles, I believe a couple of FanFests ago, CCP Abraxas staged a reading of one of his chronicles. And
Yes, that was the Silver Twin.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I remember that.
That one never got published. That one never got actually published. But there was also another one about. It was right after the Empyrean Age, where there's 3 Minmatar. There's I think a Nefantar, a Starkmanir, and a Thucker in a bar, essentially discussing.
Sounds like the start of a joke.
Yeah. A Minmatar, 2 Galente, or 2 Amar, a Kaldari, and a Minmatar walk into a bar, and the Galente ducked.
Wonderful.
We should.
or it was too short.
Yeah.
Hey,
We
The
I knew where
Concord-
you were going with that.
the
Okay,
Concord
another
officer was too
question?
short.
we should design democracy a story.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That might be an idea for next year.
Yeah.
We'll definitely discuss it. That would be cool.
Could
There's nothing.
It could be awesome, but given the an Eve story in 3 word threads that appear on the forums, it could also be a horrendous train wreck.
It'd be things like, would you want it to be about the Galente, raise your hand? Would you want it to be about the Minmatar, raise your hand? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it could wind up with like that horrible Kaldari monstrosity they tried to make last year with the wings on the wings on the wings.
Yes. That wasn't. I wish that ship had gotten in game. That was so sweet.
I would have bought one.
They would have called it the Booby. Because all Kaldari names have bird names.
A
Or
question
a
for
lot
you.
of them.
When individuals submit a news item or sometimes an idea for a story or whatever, there is very regularly this thing of apply to Mercury. If you are, for whatever reasons, not able or willing to apply to Mercury, what is the reasoning for not being able to essentially contract out piecework to have particular things? There's a whole issue about the NDA, but also about essentially becoming a game master, not a game master in the CCP sense, but a game master in the sense of one of the people behind the game creating the world as opposed to being a player. If you are invested in being a player and in experiencing the world from a player point of view, and you do not want to be NDA'd, you do not want to be a part of the creation myth, you want to be experiencing from the other side, but you still have something where you may really be able to contribute strongly in a particular area or field. And we have some incredible specialists here who know and have thought through the lore and the developments of the lore in various areas. You could tap into that if you could find a way, culturally and legally, to work around your concerns, which at the moment seem to be Mercury or nothing. So I'd just like to say, if it weren't a choice between Mercury or nothing, I might well have contributed more to CCP and to law building.
I don't
Because
think
it was
it
a
is-
choice, my only choice had to be I can't join Mercury, so therefore,
Yeah.
Well, I don't
We
think
have
it is Mercury or nothing. Like, we obviously want people to join Mercury because we like all the work they do, and obviously we do have an NDA. That means we can like talk with them directly about our upcoming plans and say, hey guys, this is what we're planning to do. What awesome stuff can you write for us that will support this? But we are definitely open to like people not in Mercury writing or creating something awesome, and we'll support it.
That's
That's part of the building the community, and like especially I did a community spotlight on Eve roleplay forum just the other week, and we have no problem with like highlighting awesome stuff players do. That
This isn't just about highlighting awesome stuff players do. This is about us contributing to CCP's body of lore. Yeah, you want to be official.
Yeah,
though. You want to be official. You want the work to be official without the person being official.
that's like, it's just
And
there's
that's-
a tricky.
I
Like,
understand,
it's sort of outside of our pay grade to make
Yeah,
talk about
I
that.
understand that too.
I mean, we've
And that's what some of us have done. But there are some things where they're either news or they are technical. I mean, some of your Project Clockwork stuff is things
Yeah.
where you can absolutely contract out without having to reveal where you want to take the story or anything that's long-term IP development.
And that's exactly what
But,
I'm going to
you
do
know,
with this project. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Fantastic.
It's perhaps a bit of a loaded question that I didn't originally want to ask here, but have there been any plans, or are there any plans and considerations to basically hand over the storytelling to players entirely and have it maybe peer-reviewed or something like that, because the player story or the storyline itself is at the moment a pretty central part of EVE that's not at all a sandbox yet. And it's basically all coming from CCP with lately more and more stuff coming directly from players.
I don't think there's ever going to be plans to just completely abandon our internal storyline and just give everything to players. We sort of want to strike some sort of balance.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
that obviously like the player stories are the things that really drive, like people hear about the Battle of Asakai and that gets them to like start playing the game, and the more people that play the game, generally it's the more fun for other people. So like that's what we highlight a lot in our marketing, but we also want to make this awesome sci-fi world, and like players, like the storyline is a big part of that.
Yeah, I mean, it is, as Eterne said, it's striking a balance. We can't hand every single thing over to the player base. There still has to be a framework. There still has to be a framework of the four empires. There still has to be the opposition between them. There has to be something that sets the scene, and then every player's narrative goes on within that scene, and how hard they impact that scene depends on their actions in game. So yeah, there always is going to have to be a framework, but we do want to try and move more towards not handing things over to players completely, but allowing them to influence the way that things happen and the reasoning behind the way things happen.
The guy in the back, he's had his hand raised.
I was just wondering if there was ever going to be any possibility of the character stories basically being able to easily done and sold in-game, like maybe some kind of in-game reporter system so people could write like in-game newspapers and tell about their regions or something like that.
That seems like it would be cool. Like,
Yeah.
There's this one person called Muckraker who does these awesome. Like, I love those. I love those posts. When I was a player, I always wanted to do like an Onion-style newspaper of New Eden that just has like ridiculous stories.
I will.
And like that would be really cool to have. That would be something. Sometimes we sit down and say, "Hey, game design, this would be cool if you have time to do it."
Yeah, I mean,
Like, maybe
there's.
that'd be something we could.
I will
pitch to
attest to
them.
the fact that I love the Muckraker stuff as well, and like 9 times out of 10, I'll just sit and hear him giggling at his desk because he's read something that
Yeah.
that's been
so
posted
awesome.
by that character. But yes, it's something I definitely like to see. Like,
Shocking.
yes.
Okay.
On the topic of jokes and comedy, how many goons does it take to change a light bulb?
Oh God.
How many?
2. 1 to smash the bad light bulb, and 1 to smash all of the good light bulbs. Just had to throw that out there. I agree with not being able to hand the story over to players completely, simply because Capsuleers are only a tiny, tiny fragment of the number of human beings in the EVE universe. So It actually is more realistic if the players don't have total control over the progression of the universe.
I think we have.
Yeah. Pass it.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And I know that there are a few corporations in game as well who have their own internal version of that. So, yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea.
I think we have time for like maybe one or two more questions.
I
It's
know. What
4
time are
minutes
we on?
till. 4 minutes till.
Yeah, we'll take another couple of questions if
minutes,
you
so-
guys have them, then we'll let you get to the keynote to get good seats.
And we can get to the keynote and get.
Yes, and get good seats.
Yeah.
Say, for example, with the ILF guys, there is a whole, these guys are trying to get a lot of stuff going about Itaki, and that hasn't really been the greatest history to Itaki. There's been points there and then, but do you guys try and follow what would essentially be the role player trend or the game trend as to where you think your next direction to go with your prime fiction?
Like we definitely take like what people ask us and are interested in into consideration when we look at the story. Like yesterday, CCP Naughton, like a couple of people like constantly was being asked questions about soft cloning. So he was like, okay, now he was like, I didn't really know that it was that big of an important issue to people. So now we'll in our next storyline summit, we'll bring it up. And
Yeah.
things that players are interested in are obviously things that we want to explore because it makes sense. Starsea, and the Thucker.
Thucker-Ale, yeah.
Thucker-Ale. It's I don't know if we can really define it as easy or difficult. It's sort of a natural process. Like I think the word Matari was player created. Like if you look at the very, very early stuff, it's all Minmatar this, Minmatar that.
No, it's not. You were using Matari very, very early. Now, I don't know if you're using it because players used it in beta, but it's about that time.
Yeah, I believe it was actually, I think it was the Hamish saga that started using that term, and then it was picked up by us.
Yeah.
So,
Official descriptions of ships from very early on.
yeah, it will be, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's been player created over the years, though, and it's
like I said, it's not a difficulty thing. It's if players start using it, then it will inevitably seep into like our sort of consciousness, especially as we hire from the community, like the player community, so much. Like both Falcon and I are
like the pair of
Falcon
us,
and
yeah.
I are long-term players, and we've obviously brought our ideas and the things that players have written and created, like heavily influence us. So.
Absolutely. Any one last question?
Yeah. Any one last question or?
Or are we all good? Oh God, no, please.
Hold on, let me see how much time we have. So. All right, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, go.
Oh, okay.
We're all good then.
Yeah, we're all
okay,
good then.
guys, thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.